while we do the other side of this cow, I thought it would be a great chance to tell you about how we're making out with calf sharing, what we did and where we are now and where we're going in the future. So we started letting her be with her mom for 2 or 3 weeks, 24 hours a day, and milked twice a day. We might have even done that for 4 weeks. I think we did 4 weeks. And then I milked twice a day. The first 9 days was colostrum. So we discarded that. Well, we gave it to our neighbor's pigs. And the chickens got some, and they liked that. So then we slowly did it a few times, just put the calf in her little separate pen next to her mom late at night, last thing before I went to bed, and then milk morning, and then a little bit at night. Just took off at supper time, just took off like maybe half a gallon or something of milk from the 4 quarters. And then a couple nights we couldn't do it, but now it's really important to keep doing it. So we did that for another week or so of off and on, putting her in her little pen beside her mother at bedtime. And gradually we got more milk in the morning. And so now, so for the last 2 or 3 weeks now, I think we're only in like week 10 of milking. The first 2 were the colostrum, 10 or 11 of milking. Now the calf goes in at around bedtime, between 9:30, 10:30. She goes in her little pen. She has her mom all day. After milking in the morning, we start at 7:30, so I'm usually done by say 8:30 at the latest. She has her mom from 8:30 for the next 12 to 14 hours. And we don't take every bit. This 1 quarter on this side, I reserve probably half of it to at least give the calf like a liter of milk in the morning for her breakfast. And then her mom takes her up to the pasture and they feast on grass for most of the morning. And then when it gets warm, they're usually down here in the barn in the shade. So that seems to be working out really good. I noticed that the cow is withholding some of her cream now, especially on this side, both front and back. She's withholding some cream. So the cream line on our milk is not as wide as it was, but I'm hoping that will change over time. So the calf is now, she was born May 12th, and it's mid-July. So she is 9 weeks old, I guess, 9 or 10 weeks old. Yeah. 9 weeks old, I guess, yeah. So we're going to maybe start weaning her around 5 months of age, 4 or 5 months of age. And then we're going to be back to milking twice a day. Hey, babe. Hey, Clarabelle. Oh, you just flicked a big piece of straw on the milk. Ooh. Yeah, so we've definitely got 2 gallons. There. We'll break for the day. There's the baby birds waiting to be moved and to click onto fresh grass. They're doing really well. We've taken out the feed and water, and I make little straw beds for them. And I have their organic feed ready and their grit tray. And Paul's bringing her water. So we're going to move them. I'm going to slightly turn them around. Put the little pan up. Yes, there. They're all happy eating fresh grass. And here's Paul setting up just a little piece of fencing that they can come outside in the front and a little bit on the side. I'll let him. Okay, feed our little baby. The little babies. This one's for going outside for the day, and this one's for later. We'll change your water. They're doing really well. And we practice going up the ramp to get them out. You guys are doing really well. We're going to go out today. Yeah. Time to go out, is it? Okay. Good morning, Hawthorne Hill Farm and Homestead. Great day for a midsummer tour. And the first thing I want to look at today, in addition to the vegetable gardens, is the orchard and the strawberry patch and what we are doing there. So here's one of our little trees here. It has a nice amount of fruit on it. Or two here. There, okay. So we had to hand thin this year because the chemical thinner did not work on the apples. So they've all been hand thinned. And so there's a bunch of apples on the ground from thinning over the weeks. So you don't want too many. You don't want to stress your little branches at all. These are very small branches, this one. So it could probably only handle 3 or 4 apples. And so that's all that's on here is 4 apples. A stronger branch like this big one here, if they're really close to it, you could handle 1 or 2 apples on these tiny little stalks like these. It could handle 1 apple on these. But when you're going out into small branches, you definitely just don't only want 1 or 2 apples on each part. And here is one of the pear trees. We have 3 varieties. This one, I believe, is something that is akin to an Anjou and a Bosque for taste. I'm not sure what the blend is, but they're kind of a reddish. They're a long way from being done. They're just little tiny things. They'll be the end of September. The chemical thinning worked really well on the pear trees, and so there's no real need to thin. We also have a few blue plum, and although they're green, I'll have to get up really close so you can see that there's little plums, little clusters of plums everywhere. You don't thin plum trees. Yeah, so there's lots and lots of little clusters of blue plums coming. So we're just coming over here. This was our old strawberry patch, and strawberries are impossible to get out. So this is the one exception that I'll make where you have to till. So we tilled it, and this is going to be covered with black plastic after the next really good rain. So this one is, once the strawberries are finished producing for the year, and this was their first year, they're mowed or whippersnipped down. And they'll grow back and set new leaves and new buds for next year. But you just take off all the old leaves, and they'll start sending out new shoots. These are the newest this year's strawberry that I did the video on how I planted them, and they're doing okay despite the dry weather. I do sprinkle them with this sprinkler here quite often just to give them a little something. You don't mow those off. They don't get mowed off until their second year. I never spent any time, I don't think, showing the vineyard. So here it is. We've got a handle on the fungal disease that they had. We had to use 2 kinds of antifungal. It was a decision to either pull them out and give up that, or to get this disease called anthracnose under control. So I'll show you just how amazing they look this year. They've really come back with the spray. So I'm actually so glad that we did it. And maybe going forward, we can slowly eliminate the antifungals. And so we can have them organic, but we'll kind of wait and see. Good morning, chicken. Always looking for berries. All right, let's have a look at these concords. Okay, so the concords are simply loaded with a lot of grapes on there. The leaves look healthy. And then we have, these are wine grapes called Moschel Foch is the wine grapes. And then the other 4 rows, even though there's the odd one that's missing that succumbed to a deep freeze or a really deep frost one year, these are all a seedless eating grape called Sauternes and Einset mostly, which are kind of pink, champagne pink, and really sweet. And just the vitality of the growth, new growth on them is really very pleasing. So the peas along the fence are largely finished, and we are harvesting dried pea pods for seeds for next year. This is the Brussels sprouts. It's just a half a row, and they're little tops. You can see the little sprouts starting to form on the stalks, and just need their little tops taken off. And that's the first stage to sizing up the little Brussels sprouts. This is the broccoli patch, and most of the main heads have been removed, and now we're harvesting side shoots. And so this is 2 full rows, and it's a lot of broccoli, and it's Arcadia is a variety, and a little bit of Green Magic broccoli in here. The beans are in flower. Seems a little later this year than usual, but we should have beans in a few days or a week at the most. We have red, yellow, and there's another row on the other side. The tomatoes are certainly taking their time developing tomatoes, but they're in flower, and they've been all pruned and tied up to the spiral stakes. So they're really happy. And here's more of those dried up peas. So we'll just head over to the other side. Like I say, gardens are not as beautiful in July, and we've had a real dry spell for a couple of weeks. So it's kind of unfortunate that we have to water constantly. So here's this side. So dried peas here, the last of the Penelope shelling peas. These are shallots, and the shallots have not fallen down yet, so they have a little bit more growing to do, which is nice. It'd be nice to get some rain on them so they could size up a bit. At the end of these two rows is the green onions, getting a bit big. These are the mini onions, which are largely fallen over, so we'll be harvesting those. These are the eggplant, peppers, and tomatoes that a friend is sharing 2 rows in this garden, and she's got some lovely tomatoes coming. Here's the failed cauliflower. Doesn't look like much, but there is the odd little cauliflower forming in here, but this is a fraction of what we planted, and they're certainly not very healthy. They were really bug infested, so I don't think we'll get much out of this. Here's another little bit of beans, and the dill is going to seed, but we're going to do some bean fermenting and make some pickles this week. And then I have looks like some chard here. Didn't do very well this year. This is the worst crop of chard I've ever had. Not sure why. And down at the back there's a little bit of dill, and there's 2 beds of parsley coming, which I use a lot of, and some chives. Just coming into the carrot and onion bed. These peas around the perimeter here are totally done, and we have harvested lots and lots and lots of pea seeds from there. So this is the white onion row, or quite a bit of it, and they have mostly fallen down, so they're ready for harvesting probably this week. And then we still have lots and lots of carrots in this bed. There's 2 rows here, and 2 rows have mostly been harvested except for some secondary plantings when there was some gaps. So those are still quite little. This is the red onions that have started to fall over. So they need to be harvested, tied up, and hung in a dark, airy place. And then we have these 4 complete large rows of carrots that have not been harvested yet. And these are some of the yellow onions, which have largely fallen over too. And more peas. The large gardens. The flowers along the fence are coming along well. And this is, I believe, more yellow onions right down to the end. And then there's a little bit of leeks down at the end for us, but they have mostly fallen over. So another week or so for them. The salads are starting to look a little sad. They have been replants in there, and there are some young things in there, but we won't be taking salads to the market for many more weeks, just a couple more weeks probably, and then we're done. This is the storage cabbages and red cabbages at the end, and they're doing really well. Yeah, they're coming along nice, but they're not ready yet. The early market cabbage are mostly harvested. I see there's probably a dozen left. They're tender, green, sweet, and lovely for fresh salads or fresh coleslaw or for cooking. They're really nice. We've replanted some spinach here in these 2 rows. This is the old beet row, and it's been picked through pretty good, but there's still a lot of beets in there. We reseeded some more carrots with the yang seeder here. The basil is ready for harvesting, and down at the end is some beets, young beets, and then we have some zinnias along the fence. In the corn garden over here, the sugar snap peas are largely done. Those are a bit too fat, you know, so we could save them, and when they get dried up and brown, there's not too many on here that are brown yet, we could save some of those for seed too. They're quite nice, and snap peas get really high. Okay, so peppers and eggplants. Peppers and eggplants really don't come along until, in Nova Scotia here, until mid-August. And then we'll have them for a good solid month. These are gaudy eggplant, and I love this variety, and providing that they get enough water, and I'm doing my best to water them, we'll have a really nice crop. They all look healthy except for one plant. They've overcome the flea beetle damage, and that's pretty much what's left of the flea beetles damaging them. It's very, very minor now. And oh, here's one that has a couple flea beetles on it. See if you can see those. Yeah, so it's minor damage, nothing to worry about. And then we have some peppers, jalapeno, green and red, all the way down. And they're doing quite nice. They're getting quite big, having flowers, and there's some little peppers forming on them. This is the cantaloupe row, and it's doing good. That's the cantaloupe row. This is a cucumber row. We've been harvesting some cucumbers from this row here. They're kind of merging together, but that's okay. It's a little bit of a physical activity to harvest cucumbers when they sprawl all over the place. It's been so dry, and the little bit of watering that we do, I don't know if it's keeping up with the demand for these poor plants to get big and thrive and start producing fruit. We just have to take what you get and wait for it to all come. I'm actually watering the corn right now. The last of it's been watered, and you can see how tall it is now. It's really quite big, doing really well. One of my little tricks for preventing corn earworm in the corn is to put half a cc of oil in the top of the silk. Here. When you see your corn silks coming out, and they're kind of green on top and then purple on the ends, it's time to put your oil in them. And you can tell this kind of looks greasy, and it's because I've already done most of them. And every few days I'll come out and look for a really fresh one that hasn't been oiled. And I put right here, right in this part, 5 drops or so of cooking oil. Could be olive oil, corn oil, whatever you've got. Just a nice oil right in that area, and that prevents the corn ear moth from laying eggs. It suffocates the eggs and they don't form, and that way you get really nice corn that are suitable to go to the market, and they don't have all these worms in them. I'm trying to find you one that's new. Here's one here. Here's a new silk that hasn't been oiled because it's fresh. This doesn't look greasy like this one. This one here looks greasy, kind of flat. So this one's fluffy. That one would get oil right in there, about a half a cc or 5 drops, and it would be just enough to suffocate out the corn earworm larva from getting in there. Doesn't take long to do it. Nice little eyedropper, and it can be done. And a little container of oil. Potatoes are still under the row cover, and we've harvested most of that one row, and we still have 4 good rows left, and the ones up top are primarily for us. And I see there's a potato sticking out of the top, so I'll have to fix
have to fix that. And we've harvested a little tiny bit of the red.
But
So the Haskaps have been picked through. There's nothing left on them to pick. We had, I think there's like 3 or 4 bushes down at the very end. Maybe you can see the green netting down there. There's a little bit of Haskaps on those for the last market. Then we're moving into the raspberries. And I really should pick some of these. We had pickers here yesterday, people who wanted their own flat, and they got that, but I see there's more. So we pretty much have to pick raspberries every couple of days, otherwise they go to waste. So it'll be a job for me to come out and get some of the best ones today. This is the everbearing row, and most of them have been picked, so there's not much left. Blackberries are coming along good. I can see we're going to have a fairly decent harvest, maybe. Blackberries are fussy, but we've got some babies coming here. Chickens are ruining all the straw on the asparagus, and that's what they do. Drives you crazy. And the blueberries are getting nice and sizing up. And I see one row is now just about ready. I think we're going to pick our first blueberries for this week's market. And they're all different varieties, so they come at different times. And this is quite a different garden than what it was 3 weeks ago when I showed you, or 4 weeks. This is the zucchini, squash, and pumpkin. They were watered all day yesterday. They were so flat, so dry, that we just spent the whole day watering them yesterday. And and I do harvest zucchini often. We have these beautiful yellow ones, and we have some lovely green ones over there. And I did harvest them the other day. And patty pan zucchinis are these nice little things that are coming here. Oh, I missed a big one there. And there's some nice ones over there. So if you're looking for cucumber beetle, you'll see that there's 2 on this flower. And the bee. Where are we here? There we are. There's some in there, see? So you just keep on your squash and don't give up. You just come out every couple days with your little flamethrower. It's just a little butane flamethrower. And anytime you see some eggs on leaves, or you see any live bugs, whether they're in the flowers or on the leaves, just give them a zap. Being careful of your pollinators, your bees, so you don't burn them inside the flowers. The garlic, and you can see that they are a lot less tall than they were because they're brown and they're kind of curled over and ready to be harvested. So it's nice to have a little bit of green left on them, but you do want 50% of them to be brown. And so Paul has a few red Russian here that were overflow from the other garden we didn't have room for. There's probably maybe 500 here. Those are his bush beans, that row there. And then he has some canna lilies here under the straw. And this is his straw sunflower patch here. Glads there and some glads there. And glads there. And they look nice. So that's our little tour for today. I'm just watering maybe one more garden. I think the baby strawberries need a little boost. The sky is a bit overcast today, as you can see. We're praying and dancing for rain. It would be really nice to get some rain. It's been 2 weeks. I wish it would rain all day, actually, and all night. It would be really nice. So